and houses in there in the beginning ranged up into 400 to 500, and by the time we were exiting the community, we were in the, high sixes to $900,000 in that community.
Wow. We're live. Episode 5, The Deal Ranch. Warren?
The Deal Ranch.
The Deal Ranch. Warren Smith, Vice President, Traditional Homebuilders. Thanks for jumping on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, to me, you're one of the... You're a good mentor to me. You spend a lot of time with me. I appreciate that. But genuinely, one of the most interesting people to talk to. Your story's amazing, so I think that's why we're doing this today. So, one, would love to give an intro on yourself, of your business, who you are, and then we can start with how you got started in the business, and then highlight a deal at the end.
Sure. My name's Warren Smith. I'm Vice President of Traditional Homebuilders of Myrtle Beach. Been in business 25 years now or so.
And before building, you started in?
I started in the clothing business. How I got from the clothing business to the construction business is a long story, but I did. I'm here, and been pretty good so far. Been a good ride.
What was the, you told me one story, I think. What made you want to leave the clothing business? You said all the builders that came in dressed better than the people.
Yeah.
What's that story?
Well, the clothing business goes back a long time. When I was a kid, I always liked to dress, and decided to get in the clothing business, and got in it and enjoyed it. But obviously you're in a mall all day, every day. Mm-hmm. You don't know if it's raining, sun shining, or what, and it kind of got old. But as I was in there, obviously it was an extremely high-end clothing store, and people with money would shop in there, and a lot of them that came in and out were in the development business and the building business, and over time, listening to their stories, I thought, if they can do it, why can't I?
Right.
So
what was the first step after that? So how old are you then in the
first step
business?
After that, I moved to Myrtle Beach. I'm 19. After my first year of college, going to work for the summer. And that was 1979, and it's 2023, and I'm still here. So obviously it lasted more than the summer. But yeah, I got in the clothing business, and over time just kind of got tired of it. Eventually went into the real estate business. Was in the real estate business 4 or 5 years, enjoyed it. Went to work for a local company that not only was in the real estate business, but also did developments and had a construction company. So over the time of working with them, I kind of moved into a construction-related situation with that company. They decided to start building single-family homes and needed somebody to come in and kind of work between the construction company and the customer.
Wow.
And so I did, and met my current partner of 25 years. We worked together there. Had a good run there. They came in and got bought out by a national builder. We had been working together there for 10 years or so. And we're in our where I was in my early 40s, he was in his early 30s, and kind of used the same scenario from the clothing business of watching those guys that came in and out. Thought, these guys we're working for can do this, why can't we?
Yeah.
And 25 years later, we're still doing it, so
absolutely,
it must have worked out pretty good.
How'd you know Robert was a good, like, you said you worked together, obviously, at the company.
Yeah, we worked together, and, you can, over time of being around people, watching them work, looking at their work ethic, I'm not sure that I know anybody that's got a better work ethic than him in this business. Unbelievable.
Wow.
His attention to detail. And obviously there's a fair amount of liability in the construction business. So I figured if I'm going to libel myself, I'm going to pick the best person to libel myself I can be.
Right.
Yeah, the best libel guy I can. So that's kind of how we got here.
I love it. So in getting started with Robert, when you guys first got started, what was business like? So you're early 40s. You had already been in construction for quite some time. Him as well. What were the early days like of starting the company, and what was the philosophy of the company? So for those that don't know, you guys build immaculate custom homes, so much different than a cookie cutter national builder.
Yeah.
And you can tell a little bit more about what you do specifically, but what was your, not hypothesis, but what was the goal of, hey, we're going to start our own construction, but what did you want to do specifically with it?
Well, the whole thought for me was, going back to what I said before, if those guys could do it, why can't we? Well, little did we know there was a lot more to it. And if those guys can do it, so why can't we? So, we got started building a few spec houses. It was the first couple of years was a very difficult struggle, and you're sitting around wondering, man, are we gonna make it, or have I got to go figure out how to make some money?
Right.
But fortunately, we hung in there long enough that a opportunity came our way. We were able to pick up some lots in this little neighborhood that had been sitting there. Just didn't work out for the original person that had developed it. Went in and took down a few lots and ended up taking down maybe 125 lots in that little subdivision. So that kind of got us going in the right direction. And we had, been in basically project sales or community sales for as long as we had been in business.
Got it.
And then over time, started building a custom here or there, but stayed focused on the development part, community part. Communities, we would go in and, we were always the only builder in the developments that we were in. So it was.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
Didn't know that.
some of the communities that we've done over time, the Cape, Cipriana Park, a couple of more big developments we had done, we were the only builder there.
Oh,
so unlike customs, where you're, there's other builders all the way around you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we got to where we are. The one community in particular that we did after we had gone through the 2006, 7, and 8 blow up, which was, as anybody in the construction business found out, that was a tough ride. But most of them got through it. Over 25 years, there's a number of ups and downs in any kind of business. So we just kind of tried to stay focused. But this particular community, which was in the Grand Dunes, was probably our biggest community. We did 190 houses in that development. And houses in there in the beginning ranged up into 400 to 500. And by the time we were exiting the community, we were in the, high sixes to $900,000 in that community.
Wow.
So
Which community was this?
that was Cipriana Park in the Grand Dunes.
How many houses total was it?
There was 190 in that
190.
development.
And I was reading, I think, an older article yesterday from 2011. Jim Apple, I guess the CFO or CEO
Yeah,
of
Burroughs and Chapin.
Burroughs and Chapin. That project, was it stalled at the time, and then it brought back to life? Because his article, you were in the same article talking about it.
Yeah, it was a situation that Burroughs and Chapin, which is ultimately the biggest developer in Myrtle Beach, and the reason that Myrtle Beach is basically here, had done this community called the Grand Dunes, and I want to say that it was somewhere 2,200 acre development. So it was a big deal. And they got started on it. And over time, just like any other big development, time passes and market goes up and market goes down and market goes up and market goes down. And certainly in a 2,000 acre development, there's going to be a lot of years that are going to pass in order to get it finished. And
Right.
I think they had their fill of it, and ended up making some changes in their company and brought in some other people, Jim Apple, as you mentioned, and they came in to kind of reignite, so to speak, the Grand Dunes.
Yeah.
And again, we're just now barely coming out of a really bad economic time for construction.
Mm-hmm.
So they recognized that, it was going to take something a little bit different. Obviously, values were what values were before.
Right.
So they were looking to get rid of some property, and I had another friend of mine, Roger Grigg and Don Leonard, who probably had developed at least 20,000 lots in Myrtle Beach over the years. Big developers. They came in and made an agreement with Burrs and Chapin, took the property down, and then we designed a community of house lot packages in there. They started the development. We started taking down lots from them and took all the lots down all the way to the end.
What year did that project start? Like when did you get in conversation with?
It was in 2010 or so. Might have been 11. It's been so long ago. But it was, like I said, we were just coming out of the housing recession, or whatever you want to call it. Right. Whatever it was bad. And didn't even know if this would work, because it was still, testing the market going back up. But the location was such a good location, the piece of property was such a good piece of property, that if there was a fail-proof development for the time, that was one of them.
Wow. How long did that entire deal, and we can kind of focus on that for a minute, but how long did that take from beginning to end? So were they working on Cipriano Park before 2008, or did this come out after? And they're like, hey,
no, it came out after. So as Jim Apple and his team come in and start looking at different ways to move some property, they recognize, the Grand Dunes, when it first started, was basically a Mediterranean community, was what the gist of it was. The whole,
just golf course houses?
Well, the whole 2,200 acres had been developed into a Mediterranean style. So for the most part, they had hoped that the whole 2,200 acres would have turned out like they originally planned.
With the red curved roof.
Yeah, with the tile roofs, stucco houses, and again, over a time that a community like that's probably going to take 20 years to develop, but things change, architecture changes, price ranges changes.
Yeah.
So we were able to get out of the Mediterranean style, so to speak, which certainly cost less. Mediterranean, the tile roofs, paver driveways. Right. There's a lot of money, extra money spent on that. So, but anyway, they came in, took the property down, and it was probably over a 10-year period that it took. So we had some.
Oh wow!
Started off, pretty slow, obviously, with still testing the market, but within 2.5 years. We finally started rolling. The economy obviously got a little bit better, and then there were some years in the middle there that we were doing 30 a year, 40 a year, which is a lot of houses for a small builder, and especially in a community that's price range at that point was higher than any price range down here.
Sure.
The average price range in that time probably of real estate in Myrtle Beach, the national builder stuff was in the 150s to 250s. So, we're in the 400s to 600s at that time. So it was a small market at that time for that type of product and that price.
Right. And what are those houses now in Cipriano Park?
The original houses in there that we did that we sold into 3s and 4s are selling for 7s, 750. 10 years later.
Wow.
Done.
Interesting.
Yeah.
scrolling back a little bit to your business, at what point did you and Robert feel stable in the company? Was there a moment where you're like, what we were just kind of chatting about before, you're like, shit, now I don't have to eat eggs every day? Like, what was the moment where you're like, oh, we have a stable company?
Really, we're waiting on that day to come.
Okay.
I'm not sure in, let me go back.
When did you start making money, I guess would be a
It
better
was,
question.
after the first 5 years,
Yeah.
we had jockeyed ourselves into a position where we had starts going on and closings going on and stabilized the cash flow.
Yeah.
The key to this business is overhead. There's just a lot of overhead related with construction, and that's trying to regulate that overhead and find the medium of, okay, if we build more houses, we're going to have more overhead. If we got more overhead, we got to build more houses. So you're constantly trying to find the equalizer of, money coming in versus money going out.
Right.
Man.
And your distinct difference in responsibilities is he's more on-site, hands-on with construction. And what did you do from today, and what do you do now?
I'm not really a construction guy in that I'm not a builder. I basically find the deals. I'm in charge of all the sales and marketing.
Yeah.
In charge of paying the bills, making sure the money's in there.
Yeah.
But we'll get it to a point that from our real estate company that would make the sale to bring in that sale into the office, processing it, and getting it ready to go to Robert. We go to Robert, and basically from there he gets the permit, takes it from there to closing, and finalization of the construction.
What were the keys to you along the way? Obviously, this business is a tough one to navigate in that for any good salesperson, no matter who you are, you still have to build really quality relationships, especially with developers in this business. How did you do that, and what was your process?
We've been pretty fortunate in that most all of our subcontract base we've had for 20 years, 20 plus years. So the key to quality is a lot of different things, but certainly your subcontract base has to buy in to the quality aspect of it. Without that, it's very difficult to produce a quality product. All that being said, it's very difficult to find a lot of quality people out there today. So, the ability to sell more is there, but the ability to be able to produce the product in a timely manner, and have the workforce that can produce it is beginning to be more difficult all the time.
How do you think in the long run that will affect? So our market right now, right? We have a lot of national builders coming in and doing things exceptionally. I don't know what the word would be, cheap, I guess you could say, but cost effective, so to speak. They offer a different product.
Yeah.
How does the labor market right now for Myrtle Beach especially impact maybe a custom builder?
Yeah.
Or do you think
it would a lot?
Yeah.
If you look at the national builders, they're at any given time in any community, they could be building 50 houses at one time. So they're not using one framer, one electrician. They could have 10 framers and 10 electricians, and it's about production, and it's about speed, and it's about time. So the pay rate for higher end subcontract base versus production subcontract base, there's a big difference in a framer may frame a national builder house for $3.50 a foot, in order to get a quality custom home built right. You're looking at $9-10 a foot for that not that same framer, but they're still framing. But
That's right.
There's a difference in a framer that's framing at $3 or $4 a foot and a framer that's framing at $10 a foot.
Yeah. Wow.
And that goes through all your sub trades, your painters, your electricians, all of them. are basically the same in what it's required, but the ability to produce the quality product requires a different level of supervision and a
Sure.
different mindset of the people that are working with your company.
Yeah. So is Robert responsible for, was he more on the talent acquisition side, so to speak? Was he the one responsible for making sure the guys that are working on your houses are
Oh yeah,
the top folks?
he
That's his
fully
craft?
runs
Yeah.
he fully runs the field from every aspect. But yeah, like I said, we've started to try to take on some new sub base, but it is it's difficult to find. We're certainly not the only quality builder out there.
Sure.
But the few that are out there, we're basically all fighting for the same subcontract base just
Yeah.
because there's just not much of it. So we're all kind of sharing in the use of the better subcontract base.
So as far as competitive advantage or key to making it through all these years as a custom builder, having quality talent and good, good building operations, what was your key in your role? Like, how did you build relationships? Like, what to you was your guys' competitive advantage in sales and marketing? Because a lot of people can get into the apartment buying business, right? A lot of people can be a realtor even, or they could be a lender, they could be a builder. People don't last a long time in real estate, it seems. Like, you can
Yeah.
get eaten up quick. So what was the key to you being around this long?
I think the word you said a while ago was it. Developing relationships will get you further probably than anything that you can do, especially if the relationships you're building are with the right kind of people.
Yeah.
And I've been pretty fortunate, as long as I've been here, to have taken what little talent I have.
Yeah, you always say that, which is a lie, but yeah.
But surround myself with the best possible people that you can, because that's really the key to running a successful business that requires more than one person to run that business. You can play golf as a single, you can play tennis as a single,
Yeah.
but a construction company requires a lot of people,
Yeah.
and you need all of them to be as good as they can possibly be.
Well, you need them all on your team, too.
That's right.
This could come across a little bit of a silly question, but a lot of people throw the term out there, building quality relationships. Well, what does that even mean to you? Like, when you start the business, like, what are you doing to get in front of developers that are, or how are you retaining business and getting new business? Like, what was the day-to-day of that, and how long does that even take?
The quality is the key to anything. If you provide the highest level of quality that you can, there will always be business out there.
Yeah.
No matter how bad the times are.
Interesting.
When times get bad, people quit building and they start remodeling. If you're a quality business person, you will figure out how to adapt from new home construction to remodeling.
Right.
But the quality aspect of it is what makes your phone ring. Quality, satisfied customers talk to other people that talk to other people that talk to other people, and that's what it's about. Yeah. That's the cheapest marketing you'll ever have, is doing quality work, and word will get around without having to spend any money on any advertising.
Right. I love that. What do you love most about the business, or not that you have to love it, but what do you like most? What do you get out of bed for every day? We talked a couple weeks ago about real estate or anything in this realm being a hustler's paradise, right? You can make anything you want.
Well, that's probably what gets me out of bed every day, is the hustling standpoint of it.
Yeah.
There's so many things, there's certainly every day there's going to be a lot of good and a lot of bad.
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out how to enjoy the good and overcome the bad. But it's a tough business. I'm not sure if I had it all to do over again. I would have maybe have stayed in the real estate business, but where I'm at now, it's been pretty good to me. It's been something I've been able to make a career out of, and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I like that. So, last little segment here, and I know we talked about Cipriano Park a little bit, but is there a specific deal? It could be the Cape we could talk about, or a development deal you've done, or one single custom build, but is there any deal you've done in your mind that stands out as maybe make or break, or exceptionally challenging, or long, more arduous deal?
I'm not so sure if it's the deal or if it's just being able to learn to adapt to whatever you got to adapt to.
Yeah.
Like I said, you get started in this business, and in order to get into construction business on your own, you'd have to see a dream that may or may not come true.
Right.
So you're constantly trying to make that dream come true, but you just got to be able to adapt. COVID, we're starting. You mentioned the Cape, so we're starting this community called the Cape. And we're getting ready to start our first houses in there, and COVID rolls through and puts the quietus on the start of that community for certainly the first year.
Yeah.
So we're in a fresh community with a fresh model, ready to do business, and nobody's leaving their house. So
Right.
in the meantime, I'm having to take down lots. I still got employees to pay, like everybody else.
And interest to pay on those
and
lots.
interest to pay on those lots. As this is going on, I'm still watching the market, and I'm seeing the opportunities to build more custom. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, I'm not sure how long this is going to go on, and so I decide that I'm gonna start looking for the custom business. Well,
Wow.
next thing you know, we're from one house custom to now, I think I've got like 10 customs under construction, ranging from 900 to 3 million. So it was, I was able to, understand that this particular product might be on hold for a little while. What can I do to subsidize? And certainly the custom homes were a good subsidizer, and at this point, they're almost, our driving force. So
I actually didn't know this. So was the first custom home you did during COVID then?
no, we've done customs over the years that we've been in business, but we've just never focused on them.
Got it.
We would do customs for, I know a lot of people. Got a lot of associates,
Right.
and over time, somebody would want us to build a house for them. So we would build it. It would be a custom house.
Sure.
So the early customs were just people that knew me,
Yeah.
knew the quality that we provided,
Right.
but I never necessarily marketed Traditional Homebuilders as a custom home builder.
Yeah.
Because we were just more focused on development.
Wow. So COVID was the spark to essentially make that your premier in your main product offering,
Yeah.
which is,
Yeah,
I
pretty
didn't know
much.
that.
Well, a couple of situations that would have made that, being a higher end builder requires higher end products in
Yeah.
higher end locations, and certainly Myrtle Beach's higher end locations are slowly coming to an end. There's just not a lot of property left in Myrtle Beach proper, and what I mean by that is Cipriana Park and the Cape are 5-minute walk to the beach.
Yeah.
Once you start getting 15, 20, 30 minutes from the beach, it's a different
Yeah.
it's a different buyer. And now you're out in areas that all the national builders are competing in.
Yeah.
And so that's going to kind of knock us out of it's very difficult for a small builder to compete with a national home builder. Their price ranges, their development charges. So more likely than not, if we don't run across something else after we're finished with a development we're doing at the Cape, which I think we got about 20 lots left out of 57, probably the custom home direction will be the direction that we take from there.
And you mentioned it there, but if there is this finite amount, which any beach area, any beach town has that, after everything's been developed, how does that impact custom home sales? Like, would
Well-
you entertain going across the water and into those bigger tracts where they are, or do you think maybe redevelopment of like the areas we talked about before is the target for people?
Well, the
Like Portrait or
niche,
something.
yeah, the niche that I see coming
Yeah.
is what you were talking about. If you go to the nicest communities here, which would probably be Briarcliff, the
Yep.
Dunes Club, Pine Lakes, those would be, in my opinion, the three top. All those communities were developed back in the late 40s and early 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So the majority of the houses that are still in those communities are houses that were built in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Which at this point are pretty much tear down houses. So if you look at the percentage of tear down houses that are in those communities, and Briarcliff, I'm not sure, Briarcliff's probably got 350 or 400 lots. It's a big development. So the amount of tear down new builds in there, the Dunes Club is 500 lots at least in there. Pine Lakes was another. So, you got 3,000 lots out there that are all 2-minute walk to the beach, which is where people moving into town that could, afford to be in those communities are going to be. They're not going to buy a house built in the 60s or 70s and spend $500,000 remodeling a house like that. So I see for us an opportunity to, make some changes in the future and possibly build less houses, but they would be, when you're building $2-3 million houses, it doesn't take a lot of those to add up to be a lot of money. So, that might be the direction that we go. So I would like to do another community, but whether we do or not, yet to be seen.
I think last little talking point, then we can wrap up. Besides homes, is there an opportunity, or would you ever do apartment buildings or multifamily? I know we've talked about maybe if we can make it work.
If if you know anything about Myrtle Beach, some of the best property that's here was developed back in the late 70s and early 80s with product on it for that time that made sense. But there's a ton of opportunities from an apartment standpoint. The apartments are pretty much like what we just talked about in the houses. At some point in time, I don't know that much about rental property, but at some point in time, the remodel and the fix-up is over.
Sure.
And there's a lot of last-time remodels and last-time fix-uppers minutes to walk to the beach that is already zoned, and the only thing that would go back there would be what you're going to tear down. So I really think the opportunities are maybe even better in that type property. Multifamily, yeah. I mean, you're starting to see, forget about the customs. You're starting to see the national builders. You're starting to see, I don't know how many apartments have been built here, a lot, but you're starting to see the livability of people. Not all people, but a lot of people, they don't need a 2,000 square foot house anymore.
Correct.
They're living in 1,500, 1,200
The
square
small
foot.
cottage communities we've seen in town.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for some redevelopment near the beach, walking, like what we were talking about, or the areas we've driven before with apartments. It'd be nice to do one of those deals together at some point.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good wrapping point.
Great.
Good deal. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Matt.